feel good after that one. You feel good after that one?
I'm still homeless.
Jason just asked, Richie, did you move?
Did I move? Yes, I moved. I moved. Me and the family and the 5 kids have moved into my parents' house. Hence, it looks like a museum.
Mm.
And when I lived here, it looked like a museum. So nothing has changed. Yeah, they live 5 blocks from us. We have some plumbing issues, and so we'll be here for a while they fix the plumbing issues.
Do you have like an ETA on the plumbing issue stuff yet, or is it still just
Oof,
like months?
3 to 4
Yeah.
months.
Oh God. But the deal is they turn your house back over to you in like the condition it was in before, or like do you have stuff to do after to get things?
No, we didn't want anything to do. So it's essentially it's going to be a new house with new plumbing. The only thing that they're not doing is interior walls, exterior walls, and roof. Everything else is essentially gutted. Our house is gutted,
Wow.
essentially, with the
Nice.
exception of the walls and the
Nice.
exterior walls and the roof.
Nice. I can't imagine. That's like we have friends who have a really bad leak going on in their condo right now, and it's like not just but like theirs, like a bunch of different like units in the building. Like some
Right.
main pipe just went boom, and like people are coming in and out all the time, like yeah, it's fixed, and then like 2 minutes later they hear this dripping sound, like it's not fixed, like it's still broken. So there's just like random walls and ceilings pulled out, and they're like, yeah, you should probably go stay somewhere else for a couple weeks. But
Yeah, yeah, and
oh
we're
sure,
here for a few months. Well, because they've got to dig to the foundation. Once they dig the foundation, they got to get to the
yeah,
pipes. They get the pipes, they replace the pipes, and when they replace the pipes, they got to wait for the inspector to come out. He comes
yeah,
out, and then we got to do the
yeah.
concrete, and that's got to
Redo the
set, and then
foundation.
the flooring is just going to take a month
Yeah.
for them to lay down all that tile. So I mean, it's just it is what it is,
Do you
you know.
have so I know like concrete setting is just a pain. Like that's going to be awful in Florida with the rain and humidity. Is there like special like dry wicking concrete that like beats the Florida humidity, or is it all just
From
slow?
what I understand, they were going to let it set for like 3 weeks.
Yeah, I was going to say it's like probably gonna, like your old foundation is probably still setting.
Yeah, it's only 50 plus years old, you know.
It's like still a little damp in the middle. Yeah, weird. All right. Let's see. Shobe asks, in your experience, what is the best third-party tool for monitoring monitoring query performance, tracking slow queries, and is also user-friendly? Well, Shobe. So there are, assuming that, like you're not talking about something for free. If you want something for free, our first responder kit has a Power BI dashboard where you can go in, like it'll log a bunch of stuff to tables, it'll show you weight stats and stuff. Not Power BI, not necessarily the most user-friendly thing in the world. Probably not going to give you all like the slices and dices and reports that you want, which is shocking for a tool that's called Power BI. If you want, just like if you're comfortable with spending like a right around 1,000, 1,500 bucks per monitor instance. Sentry One Performance Advisor is a perfectly good third-party monitoring tool. Quest Spotlight is also another perfectly good monitoring tool. I would check those two out. They're just about commensurate in like dashboards and gadgets and gadgets. It all just comes down to which one you end up being more comfortable with, or whichever, like, because if you are comparing products, you can make the salespeople fight to the death, and so whichever salesperson wins is usually the product that you go with, right? Make them knife fight. There we go. Boy, oh boy, there are some long questions in here. So I'm trying to read. Let's see. Trying to upgrade. Rob asks, I'm trying to upgrade from 2008 R2 to 2017. Having problems with queries using a linked server. Boy, howdy. Post that one on dba.stackexchange.com. There is no easy way to troubleshoot something like that from here. You're going to want to include all sorts of linked server details and login details and stuff like that. I'm sorry, Rob, that is past the past the limit of what I can troubleshoot quickly via webcast, not looking at your screen.
Yeah, I understand people who have to use link server, but I've really never been a big fan of using link server. I've always been more of a fan of, hey, I'm just going to shove the data over to another server,
Yeah.
and then work from it from there. But yeah, yikes.
I mean, normally I would be like, cool, just use SSIS, but then I'm thinking like, man, upgrading SSIS packages and like all the others, I'm like, maybe that linked server doesn't sound so bad.
Yeah, well, to an SSIS guy, I mean, they'll be all excited for that kind of stuff. But
Yeah, because that's a good source of consulting hours.
yeah, a TBA and a dev group like SSIS. Why,
Ooh,
no, please, no.
I
It
don't
works.
know.
Don't touch it.
Like
No.
when I type in SSIS, nothing comes up in the thing. I don't know what it is. How do I do it? How do I do it?
I'm just glad I don't have to do that anymore. Oof. Mm.
All right. Let's see. Nika asks, we have 2008 R2. Is there a simple way to find all unused tables across databases? Yeah, all those scripts that do that are kind of liars. So, like, we have SP Blitz Index, and SP Blitz Index has a parameter called get all databases. And get all databases will go and look, just like it sounds like, at all of your databases, and it will go and it'll look at indexes and diagnose stuff. The trouble is that index metadata isn't the most reliable thing in the world, so figuring out if a table is used or unused isn't really like as simple as like, oh, when was the last user, seek, or scan, because that metadata could have gotten knocked out for some reason. It might not be the kind of long-term thing that might not be like long-term enough to have detected some use. One thing that we've run across many times is like, we'll be looking at Blitz Index and be like, man, we have this completely unused index. The server's been up for like 3 weeks. No one's touched this thing ever. This thing must stink. But then like it's attached to some like quarterly report or like some monthly report that only gets touched once in a while. But when we need it, we really need it. So if you think that you have unused tables across your databases, just start changing the names of them. And if anyone complains or if queries start failing, then change them back. No, just kidding. Yeah, I just
If millions of people can't access your website anymore,
yeah, no
please
problem.
call,
Just SP rename.
please call Eric.
No, call me. No, but there's really no great way to tell that, and there's really no like simple script to be able to tell that. The only way you're going to be able to figure that out is like really like profiling the application and figuring out who uses what. So unfortunately, no, really not a good way to do that. Let's see here. All right. You can tell there are some humdingers in the list. On SQL Server 2014 standard, I have a query that is not utilizing seeks. I am getting an excessive memory grant warning. What is going on? Why can't I seek on any of my clustered indexes? This is a simple query, no distinct, just joins, left outer. Eric, you're asking a guy who, I mean, I know that you spell your name wrong because it's with the C, but let me tell you, I have no magic crystal ball to peer into to tell you how you have done something ridiculous with your query that is disallowing seeks. A lot of the times, if you're just joining tables together, unless you get a nested loops, like if you're using a hash join or a merge join and you don't have a predicate on that table, a lot of time you will just see an index scan because it makes a whole lot more sense to go and read the data, read through the data, scan through it, get all the rows, and then figure out which ones you're keeping or getting rid of at the join operation. So don't be all hung up on seeks versus scans. Scans are not your enemy. You want to kill with the bad kind of scans, and the bad kind of scans come from all sorts of awful things like non-stargable predicates and functions and joins and where clauses, stuff like that. Also index key order will matter. So if you do have some predicates in there, the ability for the optimizer to seek into an index is determined by key order. So there's a lot of potential issues, a lot of things that could potentially lead to the fact that you are not seeing seeks in your scan. But I don't immediately look at an index scan and say, oh my God, the world is coming to an end. It's a bit of a knee-jerky reaction.
The world turned upside down.
It is. Things are seemingly spinning out of control. Let's see here. Sheila asks, if an index only has a value less than 10 in user updates and 0 seeks or scans, is it worth keeping? Sheila, I don't think you have enough information about that index to make a decision about if it should live or die. I think that you should hang on to that index for a little while longer and see what happens with it. A lot of people want to jump to get rid of indexes like that. I mean, I just don't know how long your server's been up for. I don't know, like, if what your application looks like. There could be a lot of outside factors that would make having that index around useful. Like if it's a unique index maybe, or if it's a filtered index, or it offers the optimizers, or if it's like on a foreign key. There are a lot of reasons why we keep indexes around, even if they're not getting used a whole lot. So don't just go and get rid of that index willy-nilly.
Yeah, and the other thing you think about is, well, if I get rid of the index, what is it going to buy me?
Yeah.
I mean, and do I have disk issues? Do I have
Mm-hmm.
shortage of memory? And in that case, maybe I should get more disk. Maybe I should get more memory. Having an index is not a bad thing. If it's duplicate, then yeah, get rid of one of them. But if it's a small table or even a medium-sized table and there's an index there, ask yourself, well, what am I getting if I actually delete it?
Mm. A lot of the times when people want to get rid of indexes, because like I have this gigantic index that never gets used and it's just taking up a bunch of space when I back it up and I restore it when I run CheckDB. But or like if a table is just like plain over indexed and like there's just a bajillion indexes on there and it's time to start consolidating, chopping some of them off. Because having way too many indexes can obviously lead to bad locking problems. You have a whole bunch more like copies of that data that you have to lock when you want to modify it, but it doesn't sound like it's being written to a whole lot, and it doesn't sound like, from the amount of time that you've been observing it, it doesn't sound like the index has been used. So I would just keep a closer eye on it. I would probably want to trend that usage over like a month or 3 and just kind of see what happens. Also be careful because if rebuilding indexes, adding and dropping indexes on the same table can also reset the stats for how much that index gets used. So don't just jump to conclusions on that. All right, let's see here. Bill asked, do you have any guidelines on bringing up SSRS on a virtual bill? No, I have not. I don't know how to use SSRS. We are not SSRS consultants. Sorry about that. You would want to check with someone who does SSRS work. I'm sorry. Let's see here. That's a good one. What's a good one? Database sharding. Is anything coming to SQL Server to shard databases with? I don't think so. I don't think. I mean, you could use merge replication if you're an awful person. But no.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I haven't heard anything.
Yeah. I would ask, why do you want to shard your database? What problem are you having that you think sharding might solve?
Sharding your SQL Server database.
Yes, your SQL Server database. Other databases might already be sharded. Sharding. What's the word for it? Shardified?
I'm not even going to pretend because there's a lot of jokes that could have come from that one. But
There are.
yeah, like S3. Like S3, I mean, it is a database, right? So you put files in there and it's up in the cloud and whatnot, and you could actually shard it by, I think, the first couple characters, and that's how it determines where it decides to store things. So if you have a lot of data in a bucket in S3, what you would need to do is verify those first 3 characters so that they all go to different places so that you have uniformity in your data. So, those type of things are built into more cloudy type stuff as opposed to stuff like SQL Server.
Well, like document databases.
Yeah.
You see that a lot there. Not so much. Not so much with Razor. Even I think like Oracle doesn't shard, like pays too much mind to sharding. So, let's see. Steve asks, I'm looking for a query editor that will only allow select statements, no data or object editing at all. I need to give it to a person that shouldn't be able to edit data or objects directly, but because of their SQL permissions for a third-party application, SSMS and similar tools will allow them to write and run, delete, update. Oh, wowee. That's a humdinger. So
what about permissions? I mean,
well, he's saying that because of let's see, what was it again? But because of their SQL permissions for a third-party application, SSMS and similar tools will allow them to run, run, delete, update, and insert queries along with drop and create. Boy.
Yeah, I mean, query editors, all they do is run SQL.
Yeah.
So they don't filter out what kind of SQL you can run and whatnot. They may do some nice things as far as syntax highlighting and other stuff, but they don't. When they push stuff to the database, there's usually not a filter for that kind of stuff. So I don't know of one that would do anything like that. I would remove the third-party permission, that I account from this user, or make him a DBA. And if something goes wrong, he gets a phone call in the middle of the night.
Yeah. It's a little unfair to ask you to support someone's ill-conceived permissions in SQL Server. So it should. What I would say is, look, fine. Like, this person has the ability to do this. If they do any of these things, I am not fixing it. It is up to them to fix it, because that's messed up. like I would just draw that line real deep. I would make a moat around that.
I bet you that user has a title of CEO or something, or C-level.
No,
I did this
analyst.
once,
Always the analyst. Always.
But yeah, they have the user ID for the third-party password. I'm not down with that. Like my developer bones are jiggling. I was like, no, that's not for you. That's for the app. No. Bad.
Yeah, I would really want to ask why we can't give them a separate read-only login just to do this stuff, and then have them, have the app do its other stuff, via its login with the appropriate permissions. I would have a really, someone would have a really, really hard time justifying that setup to me without me starting to throw things.
Yeah, in fact, this week I created a role for Brent and Erik that's just read-only as far as certain things. And I called it neutered admins.
Yeah.
And all they could do is just read-only, and that's all you could do. Sorry, you're neutered. He doesn't play with other puppies anymore. Sorry, Erik.
Yeah. Feels good. You know what? Actually, in a way, I'm grateful to have that kind of restraint. I'm happy that I can't accidentally mess anything up. I'm thrilled. I'm like, cool, I can't make that mistake. I can't update or delete that thing. I can insert some things sometimes to very specific places where it's not going to break anything, hopefully too badly. But it's not on me. Richie in his wonderful responsible foresight has taken away my ability to do more damage than I should be able to do, and I'm grateful to have that shock collar.
Well, when I was consulting full-time, I absolutely told them I do not want permissions to prod. You can give me read-only, but that I will not take any account that has permissions for prod. That is not my job. My job is to write code and development. Give me full access development. I will fight for that. But anything else, I will not accept that login. I will not open that email. I don't want anything to do with it.
Nope. I'm deleting that thing on site. I have a special thing that checks email for the word SA, for that letter combination. Destroys it. Let's see here. Joe says, Blitz Index says aggressive index on PK. Roll locks and weights are very high. Lots of contention. Many key lookups, no missing indexes. Should I tune indexes to eliminate key lookups? Boy, oh boy. Yes and no. So when Blitz Index warns about aggressively locked indexes, it's basically saying that when queries are waiting a long time to get locks on that index. So other locks are being held on that index for a long period of time. There are a lot of reasons for that. Usually, it's that your modification queries, anything that wants to update or delete or insert, does not have a really good index to find its way to the data it needs. This is particularly true of updates, and I see this a lot, or updates and deletes mostly. Inserts not as much, because an insert you're just kind of putting stuff in. I'll talk about that in a second, but usually for updates and deletes, there's usually a where clause, and that where clause needs to get supported just like a where clause for any other query. So most of the time when I see aggressively locked indexes, it's for one of two reasons. It doesn't sound like the first reason is going to be for you, because it doesn't sound like you have a bunch of other non-clustered indexes on there that are also getting locked. It's just the primary key, which seems to me like this table is under-indexed. for other queries. So rather than focus on key lookups, which are a totally okay thing to tune for if you find them being problems, mostly what I would want to do is start looking at the modification queries that my app or whatever issues, and I would want to start looking at the where clauses for those and making sure that they have a good path to the data they need to get so that locks get in, get out faster. For inserts, that's usually for inserts, updates, and deletes, batch size is very important. So if you have quite large tables and your queries are looking to modify quite large chunks of data at a time, that's usually when we start to see stuff like, we will see like lots of lock escalation or attempted lock escalation, or just like, queries that run for a long time because they're waiting to get locks across all this huge chunks of data. So fellow named Michael J. Swart has, I'll find the link and I'll paste it in there because I'm sure it's right up in my doodad bar. You stone cold. Okay. Concentrate. GoToWebinar does this fun thing when I bring up Chrome, because it slightly covers the window that the slides broadcast on. So everything just starts flashing these awful colors and warning me that things are not where they should be. So one thing that you could do to attempt to reduce aggressive locking is to not try to lock as much stuff at once. So if you bring your batch size down to like 1,000, 5,000 rows, somewhere in there, you usually have less aggressive locking going on behind it. Let's see here. We got one more, and we'll finish strong on this. Charles says, my proc cache is almost 1 year old. If the last execution time of a proc is null, is it safe to say the proc has never been called? No, it is never safe to say that, because someone might recompile something, that like a plan for that thing could be invalidated, and that plan could disappear from cache. It is not safe to say that in the least. This is one of those, like with the unused tables thing and the unused indexes thing, this is not something that you can hit F5 on once and make a call on. This is something that you have to profile over time. Especially for something as ephemeral as the plan cache, which is effective. Wait a minute. Richie, are you thinking what I'm thinking?
No, I never think what you're thinking. It gets me in trouble with the wife.
This server hasn't been rebooted in a year. This server hasn't been patched in a year. That sounds suspicious to me. So, Deshal, what I would say is patch your server, because it sounds like this thing hasn't had any patching love in quite a while. But beyond that, no. Again, there are a lot of reasons why a plan might not be in the plan cache. If you hit F5 once and you want to drop a procedure or a table or an index, you have lost your mind. This is the kind of thing that you have to, learn over time, profile your app, profile the queries that run in, try to make some determination on there. If you have folks who are spinning up things that are out of use or out of favor and don't get used anymore, then they have to be responsible for the change management procedure to get rid of those things. It's not something that someone should be trying to ascertain from looking at DMB diagnostic data, because it can be terribly misleading. It can be terribly inaccurate sometimes too.
Like me.
Richie's very misleading. He's always wearing these short shorts to the company outings. I'm like, hey, how's it going? And he's like, don't look at me.
No.
It's bizarre.
Don't.
All right, that's all the time we have for this week, folks. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week. Brent will hopefully be back from his road trip to San Diego, and I don't know.
Brent Ozar's great big adventure as well.
Weekend at Brent's.
He's on a red bike right now, traveling across the country.
Yeah, he's got his Pee-wee suit. It's nice. He's having a good time. All right, take care, y'all. Bye.